Hello everyone, my name is Jared Gilster, and on my YouTube channel I talk about movies. Sometimes I talk about comedy specials, TV shows, whatever I feel like it. And right now we're still kind of in the middle, maybe hopefully on the end, downslope of the coronavirus pandemic. And the last few videos that I've done, since there haven't really been any new movies or big content that I felt like reviewing coming out, I've just been doing recommendations of things that I have seen recently or things that I rewatch frequently that I like a lot, and just giving those kind of recommendations to people who still have a lot of time on their hands. And another one of those recommendations that I'm bringing to you today is a movie called The Pianist. It came out probably in the early 2000s. It's about the Holocaust and specifically a Jewish family and a Jewish individual who was a classical pianist. He played on the radio and is just super well-known, well-renowned pianist. And he ends up getting put into the Warsaw Ghetto, and just kind of his dynamic with his family during that time. And I know that it's a very depressing subject, and a lot of times, and even I can throw myself into this category, that it's easier not to think about those horrible things that have happened in history. It's just not something that you always want to be thinking about, just because it is depressing. But something that is very special about this movie is that it captures so much truth that happened in that time. Obviously, I wasn't alive when that happened, and many of us were not living in, Nazi Germany, or we weren't living in Poland or these places that Germany was taking over. But the best thing, and I repeat this in a lot of my videos, the best thing that a movie can be, it can be entertaining, it can be funny, it can be, enjoyable to watch, and, something that you want to just kind of kill time and turn your brain off. But really, the artistic value in movies, I believe, is just when movies are able to tap into some, existential or it's some sort of truth that is just true. It's not something that can be, well, you look at it this way or I look at it this way. It's like, well, no, this is some truth that happened, some kind of looking glass into reality, and how in these times in history, just there's been horrible things that have happened, and make you kind of question just morality and how someone could, or some countries or groups of people can just fall so deep into doing something that evil. And this story, I think, is one of the greatest stories in the Holocaust, or in the Holocaust genre of movies. Schindler's List, I believe The Pianist is right up there with Schindler's List. It doesn't go into the labor concentration camps, but it focuses more on the ghettos that the Jews were forced into, and specifically the Warsaw Ghetto, how they were herded and how they were told through the newspaper how they had to act, what they had to do to mark themselves, places they were allowed to go, where they weren't allowed to go, how they had to be herded, and they had to choose like what kind of possessions they were allowed to take when they were being herded into these groups. And the movie is heartbreaking. I can't tell you that this movie is just, a joy to watch. But when I saw it, I first saw it a couple weeks ago or months ago. It was on Netflix, and it's really hard to find. I wanted to buy it. I usually buy movies digitally, or I used to buy them on Blu-ray, but I couldn't find this one. But it's on Netflix, so you should check it out there. And it's just so heartbreaking seeing the kind of depravity that people are capable of, and it makes you question how people can go along with something like that. What sort of degradation of the soul has to take place in order for someone to get to that point. Obviously in history there were a lot of things that didn't just happen, that they popped up out of nowhere. There were a lot of elements going on. There were a lot of countries during that time were obviously having depressions. They had, horrible economic loss. And after World War I, Germany was just struggling, and they were looking for someone to lead them. And they blindly chose, this guy, or, allowed him to take power, and they had too many other things on their mind that they didn't really think about what was best for them, or, there were a lot of things that led to this happening. But how could people go along with that? It's amazing. This has kind of been, I knew that I wanted to do a review of this movie and recommendation, because I just think that it's pretty life-changing watching this movie. Not because movies are just life-changing. I don't think that they are. But like I said, if something that it taps into some existential truth, that I think is the special thing. And I thought that the way that they capture this man, the types of struggles that he has to go through, first living in the Warsaw Ghetto, just seeing people just murdered right in front of him, people in his community just, being discriminated against in the most horrendous ways, just having their freedom taken away. We live in America, I live in America, and the founding of our country is based upon this idea that God, or, whatever you want, he has endowed us with freedom from conception, from life. Once you're born and you're living in the world, you have freedom, you have free will to do as you want. And obviously we need to have some law and order so that we're not living in complete anarchy. But generally, the libertarian perspective is that if your actions are not harming someone else, or there aren't external issues with what you're doing, you have the freedom to do so. And just having those sorts of rights just totally being taken away from a group of people based upon your identity, something that is immutable, something you can't change about yourself. I was born however I was born, and that doesn't mean that I'm exactly the same person as someone who's the same ethnicity or same race or gender as me. We're different people, we're individuals. And it is just crazy to think, how people are able to just latch onto an ideology so quickly because they feel endangered or trapped, or they feel like, this seems like it benefits me, so we're going to stick to this. And, it's very tough, because it's not the first time that it's happened. It's not going to be the last time that it's happened. There are lots of ideologies where people just latch onto that group identity, and they stop treating people or themselves as individuals. They just want to kind of dilute everyone to just a couple immutable characteristics. And that's just fully played out in this movie, how the disabled were just treated horribly, how women and children were not treated with any sort of grace. They were just slaughtered. And this movie is extremely inspirational as well. Seeing some of these things that happen in history, I think, although yes, depressing, not easy to think about, I think that if you're of age, let's say you're 17 or however old, you think you should be when you're watching this. It's tough to watch, but I think that everyone should watch something like this or know it, because, I know it's cliched, the idea that history repeats itself, but in ways it's extremely true. We just have these kind of tendencies to not want to take hold of that freedom, because with freedom comes that responsibility of what do you do with that freedom? Like, how, now that you have responsibility, how are you going to take responsibility for your life and know that the state is not going to be the one that runs your life, the ones that tell you everything that you need to do and just be kind of your safety nets. Like, now that you're responsible, how are you going to let that, how are you going to take charge of your life? I think that this movie just, there's so many different ways to look at it when you're watching it, different kind of takeaways that you have, but just overall, I thought that it captured that moment in history perfectly. It's really life-changing, and it's done with a lot of skill. Roman Polanski made this film. He's not the greatest guy. He is known to be a child. I think he's a pedophile. I'm not sure exactly. If he's all the other qualifiers or ways to label him. he's a really truly messed up guy. And I think that he's definitely felt the backlash for that. He doesn't work anymore, but this film that he made, it's truly amazing. And if you can separate the art from the artist, I certainly can, because this film truly captures the struggle so well. So if you have time, I deeply suggest you should check it out. It will illuminate this sort of living in the ghetto, some part of history that a lot of people overlook because they focus a lot on the concentration camps, which is the most sinister, I think, part of that whole experience, but also just the steps up to that, and there's just taking away of rights. It is horrendous, but truly inspirational film, and it really rocks you to your core. So I think that it's a positive thing to watch. You guys should check it out if you get a chance. I'll be back, and I'll recommend another thing that's a little bit more lighthearted, more entertaining, something uplifting to watch. But I do think that The Pianist is one of the greatest movies that I've seen in the last few years. It's great. You should check it out. It should still be on Netflix as of now. It's April 26th when I'm recording this, so it should be there. And you should come back, check out my videos, check out some of my videos down below. Let me know also in the comments below if you like this sort of different way of reviewing movies. Usually I do more editing, but I felt like I wanted to try doing some things that were a little bit more authentic, just like one shot where I'm just going through my thought process in real time with you guys, and just kind of being more real. I find that when I have to re-record things, sometimes I feel like I didn't say the right thing, or I want to rephrase something, or I didn't say it with the right inflection to get my point across. And then when I'm editing my recording, it feels like I'm not speaking how I normally would in real life. So this is a little bit more how I am in real life, and at least when I'm not in a conversation, I'm just kind of speaking. But I would love to know if you guys appreciate this, or if you like the edited stuff, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. So let me know, and check out The Pianist, and I'll see you guys next time.